Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Renee, and I'm here with my two special guests, Debbie and Yvette. Okay, so thank you guys so much for joining me today. I have a video a couple weeks back where me and another friend were discussing whether or not we would tell a mutual friend if we were to catch their significant other cheating. Now, that got a lot of buzz in the comments and people just asking, like, you guys wouldn't say anything? So I decided to do another video with two OGs who've been friends for, how long have you guys been friends?
As old
I'm not telling you my
right
age, but
now.
our whole life.
Yeah, that's what I'm like, as old as we are right now.
So over 15 years, let's keep it like that. They've been friends.
Thank you.
So they definitely have some wisdom on this, and we're just gonna dive into the questions. So do you guys think it's healthier for a relationship to keep it separate from your longtime friendships?
It's hard because your longtime friendships would be in a relationship regardless, because they would be the ones that either when you started dating, they knew. And if we're talking about marriage, I think that if your longtime friend is still single, then there's a conversation that needs to be had, because we're no longer, stop laughing, Debbie. You're no longer in the same category as them. So now you're married and they're single. It's completely different views. So then if your friend tells you something that's happening in your marriage, like they're giving you advice, you can't really take it as solid advice because they're not in the same situation. So it's coming from a single mind, not from a married mind where you have to compromise with your husband.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Yvette in that regard. So when you first start dating, I kind of feel like your closest friends are some of the first people to know. You know what I mean? And like those are who are your circle, your ride or die. These are people who you're really checking in with on a regular basis. So to keep it separate would be just unnatural, I guess you'd say, if you're typically not a private person.
So my next question is, has a new relationship ever broken up a long-term friendship for you guys? You're not on trial, Yvette. Don't worry. You don't have to say no.
That's it.
I would say sometimes it doesn't cause like for it to end, but it does cause flags. So then it causes awareness on where your relationship really was. It makes you reevaluate your friendship, because sometimes it's like, yeah, you started off real close as friends when you were younger, but as you grow, your interests, your attitude, your personality, it changes, and it doesn't change with them sometimes. So then now where it's like, I used to be real with you, I just tell you this and this, but now when I tell you this, everything has a understory, or you think that I'm saying something else because of your perception of what it is. So now you look at where I am, or you've seen the relationships that I've been in, and all of a sudden you think, oh, you're judging me on this one? Or it's like, if the person that is new, it's like, why are you taking their side and you know me all my life? And it's like, I'm taking their side because I've known you all your life. So it's like, if you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, you're right. It doesn't matter if the person's new. So then if the person that's been in your life, but a new person, not saying this person's in a relationship with me or in a relationship with them, it could just be like a new friend that has come into the mix. And if you side with that person, the new person, the one that you've known all your life, checks off, you're not loyal, you're not this, you're not that, like, this is my expectation of a friend, and you know me, but yet you're taking this person's side. And it's like, you have to understand that, one, we're grown now. So if you can't take the truth and the honesty of our friendship, then yeah, it's going to cause a drift. It's going to cause a division. And the new person didn't cause the division. They caused the awareness of what's happening, meaning I'm on a different level than you are. Like, our expectations are completely different. So sometimes a new person comes into your life for you to reevaluate things, and it doesn't cause the division, but it causes the awareness of, let's reevaluate where we are. Set our expectations different. I know we've known each other for 20 odd years or whatnot, but we're not 16 anymore. So when you tell me not to like somebody because you don't like them, we're grown.
Yeah, that's invalid. But what about the flip side now? What if your partner doesn't like your friend? And I'm not saying like, I'm not talking about like under normal circumstances where maybe your friend disrespected them in front of you, but I'm like, They just come.
They just can't take them. I just don't
Yeah,
like
they
them.
just don't like them.
This is your husband or your boyfriend?
They talk about both because,
Yeah.
like, you know, we're not born married. You know what I mean? And so when I think about, like I said, my teen years or my 20s when I was dating, there have been people, I'm sure my friends are kind of like, oh, why are you dating him? And I'd be like, girl, I don't even know myself, but he buys dinner. So that's what it is. You know what I mean?
And popcorn.
And popcorn, right? So there have been situations where they just keep it real. And I think you're very real with your friends as well to kind of know what it is. Like I've had friends or guys tell me, you know, I don't really like your friend. And I'm like, oh, that's too bad. You know what I mean? And so, like, to me, I think it really depends on the seriousness of the relationship. When you're getting to that place where it's like you say serious, or you know you're at a certain level in your relationship where you actually, I want to say, you respect your partner's opinion. Sometimes it's flawed, right? That's the reality of it. If you have a friend who you've been friends with for 30 years, let's say, and now you've just been dating this dude for a couple months and he says he doesn't like your friend, sometimes it's things that, so it could just be a personality thing where you guys just don't mix, but sometimes it's also things of where that friend sometimes just sees through the BS and they know that and they don't like that. You know what I'm saying? You have some of those friends where they can just read the situation and they're like, I know what this guy's about. Let me tell you about these kind of guys right here. You know what I mean? And a lot of times you find that those guys tend to not like those friends. They tend not to like the friends who call out the BS. They tend to not like the friends who kind of keep it real with you in that regard.
Or let them become aware of what they're doing because they're ruining their flex. So it's like, nah, man, those girls that talk, they try to keep you separate. Because if you're a girl that runs in this whole love is blind and never see anything, and you have somebody being like, listen, this man carries his shoes into your bedroom. He never leaves them at the front door. Like, why does he do that? Shady. and then when he called, and then
I was like, why does he do that? I'm sitting there like, why did he do
and
that?
then like when that friend is like there questioning you or causing you to have these questions in your mind, things that would have never came up in a conversation with them, they see it. So it's like, if you're not one to question things, all of a sudden you're questioning, but where are you going? Like, but why are you never used to question me. It must be that friend. Can't stand that friend. Like, she's making you the person that I don't want you to be. Like, I want my girl to just be like, don't ask me no questions and just leave it. But she's trying to get you wise, and I don't like that. So no, stay away from that.
That's true. That's very true.
My husband, I've had times where he's told me, I don't like that friend, right? And I'm kind of like, oh, why? And they're like, yo, they're rude, or they're like this, or they always move in a certain way. And like for guys, I know respect is a really big thing. So anytime when they feel like you got a friend who's like real disrespectful, or like you say, doesn't appreciate boundaries or doesn't follow boundaries and just kind of in their face like that, that's like a big turnoff. I know for my husband in particular. I remember some years ago, I had a friend come over. I think it was after I had my son. And my friend came over, and I remember I got up to do something, and they're like, your husband should be doing that. Why do you have to get up to do that? And he just looked over like, how you going to walk up in people's house and we want to be saying what people should or shouldn't be doing? You know what I mean? And he's like, yo, don't bring that girl back to my house. And to tell you the truth, she ain't been back to my house. You know what I mean? There are situations where, like I said, I've pushed back, or I'm kind of like, well, why? What's that about? What changed? You know what I mean? Where I'll investigate it a little more. And that's more so based on my relationship with that friend. And I think that those are some of the things that do make a difference, right? I think even between a husband and wife, husbands can be wrong, right? And so I think there's still room for dialogue about things where somebody might have an opinion or are caught up in their feelings in a moment and they're upset about something. But if you check them a month later, they're kind of like, yeah, you know what? I was just annoyed by a whole situation and I didn't mean it like that, but it was like this, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's something you got to kind of take with a grain of salt. I'm not saying just because, like, I just think about it logically. If Omari were to tell me today, honestly, I can't stand Yvette, don't bring her back to my house, I'm going to be like, whoa, I've known this girl for over 30 years. Like, it's not going to be just like, okay, you're my husband, so I'm not going to talk to you no more. You know what I mean? There's going to be a very real conversation about, well, what is it about Yvette that you don't like? Or what is the situation? What changed? Because from Trinidad, when I met you, Yvette was down there. Since we came up, she came to the airport with me to pick you up. You know what I mean? Like, those are some very real conversations you're going to have. And so when you see that there's merit, I think you will make a decision, like say as adults, not only just based on because of the relationship status, but based on the, I want to say evidence, not that you're in court, but based on the information that you're bringing forward to say, you know what, bro? Yeah, I can see that. That's true. So you know what? I'm gonna ease off of this. Or yeah, I'm gonna have a conversation because yeah, that was disrespectful. You know what I mean? I remember there was a time, remember Yvette, I think we were leaving church and we were supposed to go somewhere or we were gonna do something, and I think we were gonna drive together. And Yvette's like, okay, come with me and Amari can just drive. And he's like, no. And I was like, what? You know what I mean? And so Yvette's like, you're gonna make him tell you no? And I was kind of like, hold up. You know what I mean? And he was just like, yo, what kind of disrespect is that? She just telling me what to do like FMR pick me, you know what I mean? And he was so mad. And it wasn't even what was said, because all she was saying is, oh, me and Debbie are gonna drive together. And the reason why we're driving together, because we had something to talk about, but we didn't explain all of that to him, right? So he's kind of just seeing it as Debbie's coming for me, you're gonna drive behind. And he's like, yo, who are you to tell me what I'm doing? You know what I mean? So now he puts down his feet like, no, I'm not doing it, right? This whole male ego thing. And I was so annoyed by it, you know what I mean? And then Yvette was still pushing like, so he's just telling you what to do now? You're just gonna, so just because it tells you to do that, you're gonna do it now, right? And she was like going in, you know what I mean? And I think this is before Colin too. So this is what you say sometimes when you're in a situation, you see it differently, right? It's not that he's bossing you or telling you what to do, but you do understand that it's like, when I was single, I consider myself, I'm not consulting with anybody, right? And even though it's something very, very simple, it could have just been like, maybe he had something he wanted to talk to me, or maybe he just likes my company and wanted me in the car, right? But just this idea of just like ordering around like a boy, I know for Omari, for my husband, that is something that he's not about. He ain't feeling that. So even if it was something that he was okay with, if you want to disrespect and push back as if telling him what to do, he's done. So that's something that I also keep in mind, right? So,
which is understandable.
Checked by Debbie. I did get checked. Yeah.
Debbie checked you?
And so like we have those conversations where it's like, yo, you can't say that, you know what I mean? And sometimes you don't even realize it. Like as in the situation where I'm like, I'm so used to be like, Debbie, let's just go. So we already have our plan, and I'm not thinking about Omari. I'm not thinking about Debbie's kids. I'm not thinking that anybody has any other plans than what's going on in my mind. So I'm like, come in my car, we'll go, that's it. But it's like, Debbie's like, I'm married, my husband's here, my kids, like there has to be some sort of thing set up. And it wasn't even Debbie saying to Omari, it was me telling him, saying, all right, Debbie's gonna come with me, like, you know what I mean? Where it's not an asking question, it's more of a, I'm taking your wife and that's it. Like, I've known her longer than you. And that wasn't even in my mind. It was just, I wanted.
This is how we normally operated. So it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. It was just, this is our usual routine. And even for myself, I was like, yeah, man, I'm gone, right? And so it was like, she just told him, okay, this is what's happening. And he's kind of like, this is the first time hearing this. How are you telling me what's happening in my house? Right?
Making plans without even checking with me. And that's the whole thing. And if it was flipped, if he was like, yo, so-and-so's coming with me, and no. And I think sometimes we have to sit back and put ourselves in the other person's seat, right? So if Colin says to me, yo, me and Omari are going somewhere and I already have plans that I want to do with him, and Omari's like, yeah, cool, this is the plan, like, let's go. I'd be like, you're not my husband, first of all. Like, we don't have that relationship, and you don't know what's happening. You didn't check with me. You don't respect my feelings. You don't respect my input. And that's the way that I'm looking at it. And it's like, actually, no, you're not going anywhere. And it's the whole power thing of, you didn't ask me. And if you asked me, maybe you would have got a yes. But now, just to show you that you have no power over my relationship, no.
Yeah, I agree. I understand that situation, but I find that when you've been friends with someone for so long, especially as close as you two are, or as me, Steph, and Chelsea are, you kind of have like, what I've heard people say to us before is, you guys will be in a room with a whole bunch of people, but it's just you two or you three, because it can be intimidating for people to hang out with you, because you guys naturally you guys can just look at each other and start laughing, and it's like, you guys don't need that much. It's sometimes people find it hard to join in the community. And I know, especially with me, Stephanie, Chelsea, in our past, partners have been intimidated by that, by the friendship, the closeness. And it's like, understandable. So was that kind of a situation like that, where it was like, you guys kind of were just in your bubble and I don't know.
I don't even know if it was because it's not something that was constant, right? So it's
Right.
like a hit and miss. But I've been in relationships where yes, that definitely was a problem where they feel like, listen, like your relationship is trumping our relationship. Like you will drop everything for your girls. You like if they say let's go somewhere, the planning is less planning for them than it would be for me, like us. I'd be like, let's think financially, let's think this, let's think that. But Debbie be like, yo, let's go to Niagara Falls, and I'll be like, okay, let's go. You know what I mean? But I'm not making all these plans and trying to figure out. And it's like the man now is like, but you're so close with them and you do everything for them. You spend all your time with them. When they call, you're on the phone all the time. Like you don't just give me time. And it's not even that they're feeling jealous or whatnot. They're trying to get into that relationship. They're trying to build that bond with you. But if you have your girlfriends in there all the time, that bond has been formed as we said, like me and Debbie from birth, our parents are best friends. So we literally built as family, close like that. So some of the things where she would just be like, yo, and I'd be like, I'm there. She didn't even say where we're going. I'm like, I'm there. And with your relationship with your husband, you're like, but why do you want to go there? I don't really want to go there. And I find you do things with your friends that you may not want to do with your husband because it's a different relationship. It's a different vibe. It's a different, you know what I mean? So then there could
Different
be a
type of
place that,
fun.
yes. So there'd be a place that it's like, I really don't want to go there with you, but this would be nice to go there with Debbie.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I get that.
So it's like, you just have to, everything is within balance. So you will recognize and see, like, am I talking to Debbie every single day? You have to recognize that one of the relationships are being neglected. It's hard to be in a triangle, even with 3 friends. One friend sometimes will get left out. One friend will either start feeling like you two are best friends and I'm just a tag along, or you two, or you two. It happens. It happens in every relationship. So it will definitely happen in your marriage. So it'll be you, your husband, and your friends, or it's going to be you and your friends. It's never all 3 of you for a long period of time. So you just have to learn how to balance and see which one is more important. And not saying your friendships aren't important, but your marriage, it's your marriage, right? Or your relationship that you're trying to build to a marriage. Yeah. So you have to invest the time. Sorry.
And I think what's interesting is, remember, at every relationship, you bring yourself to it, right? And I know that sounds ridiculous. Like, what do you mean by you bring yourself to it? I don't think that there is like a certain, like, I'm sure there are, let me rephrase how I want to say this. Like, when I'm thinking about when you bring yourself to a relationship is, I bring my personality, I bring my communication style, I bring like all of that to a relationship. And so a lot of times I feel like we have these, I want to say almost like these ideals of what something's supposed to be like. And so now we're trying to fit sometimes a square peg into a round hole, right? So it's like, well, marriage is supposed to be like this. We're supposed to be best friends and we're supposed to want to be together all the time. And it's like this Hallmark movie playing out when it's like real life is like, no. You know what I mean? Just like Yvette said, it's like, this is not a place I want to go to with my husband. And it's not that I don't love him, but it's just that we just have, like, you have a different personality. You have a different vibe. Like, Omari's very quiet, right? Very reserved. And so there's some spaces, it's not that I wouldn't go with him, but I know that it's going to be a very different vibe going somewhere that's like, for example, like you've gone to like a cocktail party or like one of those type of receptions where you're standing and the whole idea is that you're standing around and talking to people. Going to those type of places with an introvert is like ridiculous, right? So I was just so glad when he tells me, you know, I'm not really interested in going. You want to call Yvette? And I'm like, yeah, cool. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I already told her because I knew he wasn't going to go. You know what I mean? So I like earmarked the date. I'm like, listen, I have this event. I have a feeling he ain't gonna want to go. Stand by, right? And it's not to say that they're a bad person or that your relationship isn't good. It's just that there's just different nuances in relationships, right? So now I think what's really important is to make sure that, I'm saying from a husband and wife perspective, is that you two are on the same page in terms of like your ideals and what type of relationship you want to be building, right? So if you're a person who like values connections and values, you know what I mean, maintaining, you know, a lot of relationships and friendships, and maybe you're hosting people at your house all the time, that's great if both of you are like that. But you can't want to be the social butterfly and your partner is like, I don't want to see people, right? So not to say that there shouldn't be compromise, but like I said, you bring yourself. I'm typically that person where I'm a social butterfly to some degree. I like to call myself like an introverted social butterfly. When you know me, but I'm also the girl who'll talk to strangers in the grocery store. You know what I'm saying? So it's an interesting situation, but I think when both people are on the same page in terms of what the ideal is supposed to look like, then you can work toward that, as opposed to sometimes we have this ideal and it's like, well, I'm married now, so I can't have my friends over, and I'm married now, so I can't do this, or I'm married now, or I'm in a relationship now, so this doesn't count, or I can't take your opinion, or you can't come. And it's like, you're still yourself. You know what I mean?
Okay. So this brings me to my last question, which was the question that created all the buzz. If you see a friend, and this could be a good friend, just like a sister you see at church where you guys talk, if you see her husband or a longtime boyfriend out doing something that looks suspicious, are you going to tell her, or are you going to mind your business? Now, in the first video that I recorded with Stephanie, click the link in my bio, it'll be there so you guys can watch it if you missed it. But in that video, we both said no, we wouldn't tell the person, because usually when your partner's cheating, you know a little bit, like you have a feeling. So, and more oftentimes than not, when you approach somebody with that information, they tend to shoot the messenger. So we said no, we wouldn't. Upon reflection though, now we've kind of split sides with that, where Stephanie's like, no, I'm sticking to it, I would not tell. But with all the back and forth that I've gotten with people who've watched the video, I'm like, you know what? Maybe there are certain situations where you should tell. Where do you guys stand on that?
Okay. Well, one, I think you need to be straight with your facts. If it's you seen him with somebody, that's different than I saw him cheating. What did you see? You saw him out to dinner. You saw there's flags, and then there's blatant evidence. So if I have blatant evidence where I'm like, listen, I saw him kissing this girl, caressing her head, whatever, whatnot, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to say, like, we're going to have a hard conversation. You just have to let it be. Like, you just say it. Now, if you've seen them with someone, nothing's happening, they're just out to dinner, for all you know, it's the long lost cousin, it's a friend, they hugged, and your friend has never said to you that they're having like thoughts of maybe they're cheating or our relationship's not going very well, then there's no reason for you to go and cause problems in the relationship, because now you could be planting the seed of doubt that should have never been there. It could have been literally a friend, like a close friend, and now you've caused her to even draw upon examples of her other past where men did cheat on her. And now you have her questioning, checking his phone. You now just planted the seed of doubt and mistrust, which now you could have been the one that ruined the relationship, because now she's acting different. She's checking his phone, and now he's like, why are you doing that? You know what I mean? And it'll be like, and then you never want to say who said it. So you're stuck in the middle instead of saying, Debbie told me. Like,
no,
Debbie.
Everybody snitches. When it's your partner, you're going to say who told you. I don't believe that.
I think it depends on it may not come out right away, because you're going to beat around the bush and you're going to say somebody.
But it's going to come out, because they're not going to stop until you tell them who, because they want to know who to say can't come back here.
Yeah. But not only that, they really want to know the same, why, how can I discredit this person, right?
That too.
And that's if they're actually cheating. And I don't necessarily agree with Yvette in terms of like planting the seed of doubt or some of those type of things. I just think that in reality, like, nobody's relationship is perfect. That's one thing. And I don't think anybody is above cheating, right? And so even if your relationship is like the best of the best of the best, you've heard stories that break out after people even die, that, boy, they were, caught in all kind of misconduct, or they had all kind of children outside, and you never find this out until the funeral, you know what I mean? And they were such a good person. So, like, just that idea that this stuff never happens, I think, some people, I'm sure, some people more than others are blindsided just by the thought of it, right? But I think that the idea of planting a seed of doubt in a mind to say that's going to be the reason y'all break up, I don't think so. Because that person, like you say, at the end of the day, that person knows themselves, they know their relationship, they know what's up. And I could speak from, like, when I was younger, right? There was this person I used to talk to. And I remember a friend of mine came back to me and was like, hey, where did that person say they went when XYZ? And I'm like, oh, they said so and so. And they're like, okay. You believe that? And I was like, yeah, why not? And they're like, because I know a cover up when I see it. And I remember them telling me this, and I was kind of like deer in the headlights, like, this is my first relationship. I don't know anything about anything, you know what I mean? And so they told me, and I was like, oh man. And the reality is, a couple months later, I was back with the person, right? And so I remember it happened again, and they told me, and I went back with the person sometime after still, right?
Come
And
on.
they were just like, you know what? If this happens again, I ain't telling them because they keep getting back with the person anyway. So what's the point? Right? And so the reality of the situation is when you're telling someone, like, what is your goal in telling them? Is it just that they're aware? Is it that they break up? Like, ideally, you don't want to see them hurt. You don't want to see them in a situation. So your goal for telling them is just so that they're aware. So what you do with that information now is your business, but I've done my part as a friend. I'm not planting a seed of doubt because at the end of the day, I'm still autonomous. If I want to go back knowing that they've cheated, I'm going to go back, right? So the reality is that you can't be the person who causes someone to break up. You might, yes, plant seeds of doubt, or you might plant seeds of, mistrust, I guess you would say. But at the end of the day, that person still has autonomy to decide, am I going to deal with this, or am I going to get over this? Am I going to push forward and try to work it out? That person's still going to make that decision, right? And so when I think about, like you say, don't add like speculation.
Yeah,
I think that's really reckless to
my
just,
whole
you
point,
know,
the speculation part. And
yeah,
that's where I'm saying, when you're speculating, that is causing the doubt. That is causing where it's like you have no facts. And that could be something that somebody doesn't know me, but knows you and sees me and Omari close eating, and he's laughing, I'm eating lemons or whatever, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And it'll be like, I saw this girl with your husband and blah, 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 blah. And then you're thinking, who could it be? They don't know who it is. Omari's like, I didn't go out with anybody. And he's thinking nobody because it's me. So it's like, who? Debbie knows everybody. So the person doesn't know me, and Omari now would say, I didn't, but it was me. And he's not thinking to say he went out with Yvette. So now what are you thinking? You're thinking, who did the person see? And that's where the doubt comes in. As
yeah.
opposed to it being somebody close with you and be like, oh yeah, I saw Yvette and Omari.
But I think, and I think,
Tell you, you know what I mean?
and I think that's the main thing, right? It comes down to relationship, right? So for example, if it's Yvette, I'm going to be like, girl, listen, I ain't saying it is, or I ain't saying it isn't, but this is what I saw, right? Or this is what they said while they were talking. I thought it was kind of weird. So I'm just saying, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it is, but just watch. That's the common conversation you're going to have with a friend, right? Now, there's other people. I'm not even going to lie. There's even other people at my church or at school or at work that I might see. And even if I do know something, because I don't have that relationship with them, I'm not going to be like, she here talking about her husband is so nice and I done saw him. You know what I mean? Or do you bragging about your husband and you don't know he trying to check me still? You know what I mean? And so nobody's going to do that if you don't have that type of relationship with someone, right? And so I think that's what it really comes down to. Just walking around randomly telling people about their husbands or their wives, I think that's a little bit reckless. But if you do have that relationship with someone, like I said, they're a very, very close friend, you might want to say, like, listen, like, I know this is kind of awkward. And I think part of those type of I'm going to say part of those type of conversations or even allegations, I think the hardest part about it is almost just even the embarrassment. That's what there's so many different nuances to those type of conversations, because it's not just now that your friend is hurt, but now there's this like weird judgment now, because it's like, well, if I go back and talk to them, my friends are going to think I'm dumb, or they're going to think this, or they're going to say that, or now they're looking at him a certain way. And you know what I mean? There's all kind of feelings and thoughts going on for the person who's giving the message, but also the person receiving the message, right? So I think it's really important that, first of all, if it's like widely known, if it's widely known, then I would want to say, like, yeah, whoever has the closest relationship with this person needs to be the person who has that conversation, because reality is not everybody should be a messenger. That's just the reality. Whether it's because of the tact that they have, or the relationship they have with you, or maybe even the history they have with you, they just shouldn't be the person to come and tell you that. You know what I mean? Even if I'm coming to you and be like, listen, I ain't gonna lie to you, a lot of people know this, a lot of people saw this, a lot of people heard this, but I'm gonna let you know it's coming from me. And then you can have that conversation on a private level if you need to support them, if they're going to cry, or if they want to, if they want you to create a fake Facebook profile so you can investigate a little further. You do that as a friend. You know what I'm saying? But the reality is that you don't just walk around recklessly telling people stuff that you don't really have facts with. If you've seen something, it's kind of like, hey, I saw this. And the other side of it is like even approaching the person themselves, because best believe if I see Colin in the mall with somebody, I'm gonna be like, hey Colin. And I'm gonna stare him down. Right? Hey Colin. And they're gonna be, and that person's gonna be like, oh, who's this? I'm like, oh, I'm his wife's friend. You know what I mean?
And you are?
Right. And those are the kind of conversations. Maybe when I catch Colin on Waterways, I might be like, bro, what was that? You know what I mean? And that's also when I say it comes down to the relationship, right? Like if he was somebody that I never talked to, or we weren't friends, like in terms of being familiar, you might kind of just look at it and be like, yo, what's going on? Like you said, pull out that camera and be like, what the hell was that? Maybe go back to your girlfriend and be like, hey, I don't know what this is or what that was. But I think the responsible thing would be to walk up to the person.
Yeah.
That's just
you would walk up
that's
to them
just
if
me.
it was your close friends?
Yes.
I personally, I feel like I'm the more of a, I'm gonna take a picture from afar because I don't even want him to see me, because then he can already get his story together and go back.
Get your story together.
Get the situation.
Get your story together.
But if you don't approach, then there's gonna be missing pieces of the story. He can't make up a story if you're like, no, he introduced me as like this person, and I'd be like, but when I said I was my wife's friend, he was like, yeah.
Or even the look on that person's face. You know what I'm saying?
Because then you could be like, well, this is what I said, this is what happened, but she was vexed, like she had no idea. So now when he tells you she was a longtime friend but doesn't know you're married, try again with your lie.
I just want to say this was fabulous. Thank you so much, ladies, for sharing your friendship wisdom with us. I'm sure everybody learned a little bit something about just having tact and using wisdom, especially in these type of situations. And yeah, thank you for joining us. I hope we have you back on the channel soon when it's not a pandemic, so we can all sit together and laugh together and eat together and drink together.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Bye, guys.